beginning, I just kind of ask questions about you and the doctors we speak with to get an impression of what medicine is like there for them and what anything they'd like to promote. We talk to them about that, and then
Okay.
and so I'm interested. Kind of, where are you currently? Kind of, where what part of the world?
I'm actually in India right now. It's in Southeast Asia,
Right, right. So what part of India do you are you studying in?
Northern India.
Southern India.
I'm actually a medical, no, Northern India.
Oh, okay, okay.
Northern, yes. And it's like I am actually a medical graduate right now, so I am working in a hospital. Yeah.
Okay. In the States? Or are you um
No, I am not in States right now. Like I did go to States last year. I was there in Chicago for 3 months,
oh wow.
and then I went for 1 month in Florida.
Oh great. Okay, okay. And so are you graduated medical school as well? Um
Yes,
okay. Did you go?
just 1 month ago.
Oh wow, congratulations. Yeah. Um
Thank you.
yeah. So where did you attend school? I guess what part of the world was that in India?
Yeah, again, Northern India. It's actually like I am from a state named as Haryana in India, and my medical school and my hometown both are in the same state.
Oh wow. Okay, okay. Yeah, I know that I spent some time at a hospital in Sri Lanka and they told me that
Um,
in India and Sri Lanka, not that they're the same, but that the criteria to get into medical school is like so prohibitively difficult that there's like 99th percentile students, 99.99 percentile students because there's so few med schools per capita. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's
so
crazy. It's like people don't get into medical school like literally at the difference of 1 point. And
right,
it's heartbreaking. And it's sometimes it's just sheer luck. Like you're scoring 617 or you're scoring 618. It's just your luck that you were not able to get that 1 point extra.
oh my God,
But
and
that
they're
changes the game.
incredibly hardworking, and then they it comes down to chance. Yeah. Um, and so how many years do you spend in do you do an undergraduate or do you go straight into medical school from secondary school?
So we actually go straight into medical school from secondary school. We don't have a separate undergraduate like it is in States. So in medical school, we have a course of around 5.5 years standard. But since it was COVID during my medical school time, so my course was extended by 6 months.
Oh wow, okay. And so wow. So I always ask this question because I think it's just regionally there are different things that present to hospitals. So are there things that you suspect, or at least I guess you spent time in Chicago, um,
Mhm.
that patients present with that are unusual to the area where you went to school?
So the thing is that in India, and in fact, in most of the third world countries, like from Africa, India, Sri Lanka, China, wherever you go, you'll find infectious diseases way more than autoimmune component. But when you go to States, the paradigm shifts in that way. So we have a lot more people with allergies, autoimmune conditions, and chronic diseases as compared to basic infections.
Right.
So it's like for a normal OPD day in dermatology, if I just like go for dermat, then I would say that out of 900 medicine steps that I have to write in one day, I would be writing at least 3 by 4 of them for psoriasis or some other skin infection, scabies or some other skin infection, tinea or
Wow.
whatever it is. But if I am in US and I'm like sitting in a dermatology clinic, it would be psoriasis, it would be allergies, hypersensitivity
Right.
reactions, and that sort of things. So
Right.
that sort of paradigm is completely, different in India as compared to US.
So specifically for patients, are you do you spend more time with dermatological? Are you looking to do a residency in that area or?
No. I was just citing an
Oh, okay.
example because that example like stuck with me since my medical school. Because my dermat rotation, it was like this way, I was the only intern there. Like during my internship, in India we have to do this pre-graduate medical internship for
Oh, okay.
1 whole year. in which we are like rotated through all the departments, dermatology, medicine, surgery, orthopedics, whatever they are,
Right.
like for the whole year, like for 1 month in each department.
Wow.
So it's like that example kind of stuck with me that here we have more infections, and in US we have more allergies.
I've not
And
heard that characterization. It's really
yeah.
interesting. I spoke to someone from
Hmm.
Egypt, and she was saying that they had more, schistosomiasis, and that would be a
Yeah.
differential in what you would see in terms of infectious disease.
Hmm.
Because we don't see a whole hell of a lot, like except for pediatrics of
Hmm.
scabies. We see tinea a lot because we see
Hmm.
a lot of wrestlers and grapplers and
Hmm.
people who wind up getting tinea. But corporus or something like that. But they don't tend to get scabies as often, although they I've seen it before. But do you see a lot of when you do see infectious disease? Are there differences in terms of which diseases wind up showing up?
Yeah, definitely. Like, let me just cite this very, very common example in India. So in India, whichever patient comes to you, if let's say it's a patient of back pain, so what differentials would you keep? We usually keep malignancy or normal back pain or some
Right.
sort of osteoporosis or something like that. When you're in States, these are your main differentials. But when you're in India, the topmost differential would actually be tuberculosis.
It'd be Pott's disease. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like every 1 out of 4 patients with back pain would be because of Pott's disease.
Wow.
So it's not just back pain, it's a lot of other things. It's cough, it's normal, or it's even GI TB or anything. TB is our topmost differential for the
Right.
whole Indian like medicine.
It's like,
We used to have like, 1 whole month for just TB posting
oh god.
because TB is that much prevalent here.
That's one of the things I think we don't. I guess they highlight that it's a great masquerading disease, that it pretends to be things like
Mhm.
it's like lupus. Lupus can be so many
Yeah.
different presentations, and so you kind of take for granted that because your population is, for all intents and purposes, assumed not to have TB,
Mm.
that you don't have to deal with that differential, which is like all encompassingly
Yeah.
complicating. Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, it's like it varies, right? Because in states you would not have people with TB. So even if TB is still a differential for back pain, it would not be something you would like, jump right to. But in India, it's
Right.
like so prevalent that that would be the first differential you would like to check out. Like if you just order a patient with back pain, then please go get an X-ray. And you would see those lesions and you would know that, oh my God, you should go for an IGRA straight away because that might be TB.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. So you have an Instagram account, so I'll kind of plug the fact that if our 12 viewers want to see that, we don't have a ton of viewers yet, but we will soon. We're going to be start promoting soon, so hopefully
Yeah.
that will have some backlog of some people who. So I'll put that in the description as well. And anything you want to say
Mhm.
about that, or anything you look to be promoting, you're welcome to mention it. But
Definitely.
okay. And so how much have you been told, or have you been given access to see any videos of the game, or would this be a first kind of
I
showing?
actually have not been given any access to anything yet. It was just Vince who texted me that you are developing a game for your simile preparation and she would love to see my reaction and have my feedback on it. And after that, we just like scheduled this meeting today. You
Okay,
did? Yeah.
okay, all right,
So I kind of didn't get any background on anything. So I'm actually looking forward to learning about it.
all right, all right. Well, this is going to be a very kind of a departure from what you might have expected, because so I'm effectively I've graduated medical school fairly recently as well, and
Okay.
so I am um, developing a medical education video game. So it is multiplayer, it's online, it's browser based. You will be able to access it, I believe. Um, and so we're in kind of alpha mode. Alpha version is coming out fairly soon. We'll be at that stage probably in development, and meaning that it's still in early days. And it works. It's an attempt to kind of addict people to studying, and it's kind of the way that casinos try to keep you in the casino and buying drinks and giving all your money away. We want to try to surreptitiously shoehorn as much information into your brain as possible, and make the process of, because in the early days of step one study, I think people's adjustment is considerable, and they wind up learning um, that it is demoralizing to get the scores that they're getting at first, because the scores that they are getting invariably will be very low.
Mhm.
And it'll stay low because the questions are kind of tertiary questions. So in order to answer the question, you have to say, "Oh, I don't just know that, that Dr. Adam, like that Adam lives in the States, or that Adam lives in Colorado. I have to know that he lives in Denver, you know." And so I need to know all three of those things. Although those are kind of, if you know that he lives in Denver, you know all of the rest. But the questions aren't like that; they're discrete. And so, in order to feel like you're improving your score, you have to know three things in a row, which means it isn't until late in your prep that your score kind of meteorically goes up. I would say, and so I think this is kind of like intended to be a bridge. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to check to make sure that my browser's all set for us. Um, yeah, I'm going to adjust the screen size to fit the recording that I'm doing. Okay. And then I will rookie move. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it a relatively small size here because I think I'll be able to do this. I'm gonna go to advanced. Here we go. So are you able to see my browser? Is that sharing
Yes, I
yet?
can.
Oh, cool. Okay. So this is the website. It's borb.org. And right now, just because we're in beta testing, we don't want to sick everybody on the game. So we have kind of like pre-orders. So you have to go to Kofi and donate like $5 in order to access it right now. Unfortunately, just because we're not hoping to flood every person who can get the inclination to see it because we want to control first impressions and make sure they're good.
Definitely.
And so um, just because some people will show up and not know that it's a work in progress and then say, I didn't really like that game. And my hope is that we get a better showing than that. So I'll refresh here and I'll log in. Um, you can play this, like, it's a nice thing to do if you're waiting for it to log in. We're fixing the speed at which I'm currently in, like a country that has a very slow ping. Just happen to be traveling, and so this is a nice gauntlet to throw the website to see if it can load up a little faster for
Yeah,
us.
I actually,
You
like,
what?
where are you from originally? I
Oh,
actually didn't
yeah,
ask
yeah.
about you.
Oh, no, no problem. Actually, we haven't done that yet. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, and so I went to school in New York at Cornell, and then I went to uh, off to medical school and graduated this year. Um, and and so I basically I got a lot of exposure because I had some learning disabilities that made it very arduous to get through school and very hard to take the step one and the step two exam. And so um, I have a learned appreciation for strategies that can get you to the next stage of your career and can have this huge impact. I think it's like Christopher Hitchens who said like the best thing you can do for an economy to promote the economy is to liberate women so that they can fill like half of the job capacities for those hurting economies that need a workforce. You just need to help half of the population reach those attain those positions. And I think I think there's also an analogy to be made for learning disabled people because they can hold an IQ or a capacity to do jobs that is adequate, but sometimes they need certain tools and strategies to get there. And I fully believe that if you gamify education, you'll be tapping into a hidden resource full of capable, students. So that's what I was thinking about when you said that sometimes it comes down to luck to get into an Indian
Yeah.
medical school. I was thinking, man, it would suck if you worked really hard and you're really capable, really strong doctor, and then you just read the question wrong because you had a scaffolding error reading or something like that. So that's part of what I think this does is it doesn't level the playing field, but it makes it a little easier to be have a gripping, experience that grabs your attention if you have attention deficit disorder, if you have a learning disability that makes it hard to field these questions over and over again. It's demoralizing. If you had like dyslexia, dysgraphia, then this could be a nice way to expedite your studies. It like in terms of study fatigue and study. I call it kind of study fatigue and study uh, despair. Uh, and so I'm going to so right now I need to make like a tutorial almost to get you because we don't have like a menu button, so you would hit this client global, it'll load up here. All right,
Okay.
and so I have a username that's very creative. It's AA. Probably have to on later versions change my username to let people just use it, but it doesn't matter for now. So I go to settings and change the music volume just so we can hear ourselves think. And so ordinarily I would go to a game review section and it would allow me, after doing a bunch of questions that day, to review the questions and see flagged questions and see the highlighting, how long it took me to answer the question, what my confidence was, and how accurate it was. But
Mhm.
currently we're not at that stage yet. So what I would ordinarily do is, let's say I remove this character, I make a new character. So if you have any preference, we can choose one. Nobody ever has a preference. Um,
I actually like the guy with the three horns.
which one is that?
This one, like yeah, that one.
The wizard. All right. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I like this is
It
good
looked
feedback.
like, you know, it looked like it had three horns, like in the black and
Oh,
white
oh.
sort of thing.
These are like the chibi versions, and then when you click on them later, there will be the real animated version. So it'll be like a more
Um,
higher resolution, cool wizard guy. But so our
yeah, that's cute.
Doctor Threehorn, and so do you want to do step one, step two, or step three?
Let's go step two.
All right, step two. And then so we'll go solo adventure because I haven't gotten you set up yet to play the multiplayer, and
Mhm.
it's not quite as smooth sailing.
Okay.
So we got the new loading screen I really like. And so these trees are going to be replaced by a congruent art as well as the fog, which needs to be altered. But what happens in this
That's nice.
environment, it's kind of funny. You have the stage, right? And then you have the day. So it says August 21st. Now,
Mm-hmm.
night and day is going to have art so that everything is kind of lower lit lighting during the dark, and
Mm-hmm.
some of your vision will be changed. This is your mini map, and this gem kind of represents where you are on that mini map. And these
Okay.
coordinates will tell you, like, so currently we're on C3. So if I were to click something else to try to see what was there, then I would spend a vision point. And in order to buy three like vision points, I need to spend some action points, and I'll tell you what action points are in a second. So what I'm going to do is like,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to click here, I just bought three vision points, so the eyes opened up. So I saw that this is a grassy plain, and
Okay.
there are no enemies on it. I would see like an
Okay.
enemy token, like on the minimap, but I wouldn't see like the actual enemy here unless I had clicked one of these tiles with an enemy token on. So we'll see what that looks like eventually. But if I hit S, the hotkey, I'll move, and my vision will change, and we'll get some parallax movement here. And so this is my hunger, and this is my thirst. And so what we're trying to do is just survive as long as we can. But then you ask, well,
Okay.
what does this have to do with being a doctor and studying for the USMLE?
Yeah.
So I'm going to skill up some things and we'll answer that. Oh no, is that maybe we have a bug with this character. Okay, so all right, fair enough. So I think I might have to reload, and we'll have to choose. We'll choose an archer because I am absolutely certain the archer doesn't have bugginess yet. This is
Okay.
so the idea is that you are going to use vignette style questions. So this is one of the distinguishing characteristics is we're using vignette length questions,
Mhm.
um, which is useful because I think part of getting people set up to study for the USMLE is getting them not just familiar with um, step level questions, but
Mhm.
like reading, getting this sense of like, okay, this is going to be a long question. It's going to be and not being fearful of reading 3 paragraphs before the answer, and then after they read 3 paragraphs, they get it wrong and they don't want to read the next one. Kind of getting that like threshold energy to get started on a question and not be intimidated by the question is a huge aspect of it. So like when you get a question wrong, it actually comes back and you get to see it again and try to get it right. Hopefully you read the description as to why the wrong answer choice is wrong and the correct answer choice um, is right. And so we'll go step 2 here. And so um, since I showed you the vision points, I'm just going to skill up some things. So I'm pressing U as a hotkey here, pressing 1 to slot it into the skill point. So some people aren't gamers; they're like, "What in the world?" But it's also, you can think
Mhm.
of it as a textbook plus, because every QBank is kind of a textbook, and this is kind
Mhm.
of a, like, so this is like, I guess you could say a QBank plus, which you're just going to get a high frequency of questions, but in addition, you're going to be studying with other people, and in a very real sense, you're studying at the same time. And so it's a group study session with some added features of teamwork and camaraderie, and then it builds kind of this group cohesion and sense of group study when you're really self-studying. So you don't have to pollute your world with although there are distractions, so to speak, the distractions are constantly funneling you back to the material and re-engaging you with medical facts and information. Um, so now that we've skilled up, that you can see where we can potentially kick someone away from us. This is a weird icon. We're going to change it. And then this is like shooting your bow. And so actually, I'll skill this up a little bit as well. And so without further ado, so this is the question itself. So this is how the questions look. So we can even try. We can even try to do this. So 26-year-old man presents the emergency department with severe muscle weakness. He's eating dinner when all his limbs ambulate. When all his limbs suddenly became weak, an ambulance was called as he was unable to ambulate on his own due to weakness. He also endorses dizziness and tingling all over his face. He is completely normal before dinner. Um, he had a urinary tract infection and was treated with nitrofurantoin 3 weeks ago. He has no other medical conditions. I'm just highlighting things to show you the highlighting feature.
Mhm.
And takes no other medications. He states that he has not used recreational drugs recently and does not smoke. When asked about his recent activities, he states that he and his wife live in rural Connecticut and went on a backpacking trip around 3 weeks ago. He also recently consumed a delicacy that a family friend brought back from a visit from Japan. The patient's temperature is normal, his blood pressure is decent, his pulse is 90, and respirations are 22. It's normal, but shallow. And physical examination reveals it's slightly elevated upper limits of normal. Physical examination reveals prominent subcostal retractions, which follows the most likely pathophysiology underlying this patient's symptoms. So, um, right. So it will remember your highlighting and it keeps track of how much time you're spending. Um, and so, as a consequence, you can give it an answer. You can rule out answer choices, and you can choose kind of the confidence with which you are choosing your answer. So with
Okay.
yeah, So how do you feel about this answer? I don't know. I'm thinking with subcostal contractions, he's having some trouble um, with the muscles of breathing,
I actually
respiration.
can't see. I'm actually using my phone, so I really can't see the options because
That's
it's
okay.
not zoomed in for me. But I like from my initial impressions, I was actually thinking some kind of poisoning with fish or something. But then I really can't see
Yeah,
the options.
yeah. I was thinking
Yeah.
about like maybe tetrodotoxin or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Because it's like literally, it's saying that there was an immediate paralysis after eating something that someone brought from Japan. So that like literally adds up to some kind of toxin or something like that.
yeah, I'm thinking of puffer fish, and so maybe
Yeah.
it's a weird to bring somebody a puffer fish, but we'll see. Okay, so it sounds like it was a voltage gated
Mhm.
sodium channel, so that might be it. So I think you're on the right track there. So tetrodotoxin inhibitor of voltage-gated sodium channels and poisoning. So we said in 159 seconds. So it's slightly more than 90 seconds, which is what we would hope for if this
Yeah.
question doesn't take longer. Some questions take longer than others. And so what we would do is
Mhm.
crunch the numbers and say, oh, well, 100 atoms did this question and the average was 2 minutes to answer this question. So you're at the average. So then you get a commensurate amount of action points, which I'll show you what they're used for. Um,
Okay.
like you won't be expected to answer the question at 90 seconds if the question is not a 90-second question. So it will be intelligent in that way and understand. So yeah. So then they explain all, you have Guillain-Barré syndrome, and you have all these other peripheral neuropathic symptoms that can cause similar symptoms, but not this one, given the clinical. So if you look at my action points, which are these kind of green around this answer question button, I can use them to move uh, and explore my environment here. Um, okay, so now I have two enemies all at once. So if I were to,
Uh,
so I shot this snake, right? And so the snake's kind of dead body is there, so it's kind of morbid. But so if you search their body, you could actually like. So I found an item instead of like. And I can also eat the snake, so there might be actually something to eat. And so we may run out of time for the Zoom meeting at some point. So I'm going to. So he may kill me because I think we're in testing, so it's going to attack really quickly. So the idea is that I can um, use action points that I earn from answering questions correctly, confidently, and in a short period of time, and that this game log will alert me to things like if an ogre was walking nearby, it might say in the direction of B1, you can hear an ogre, you can hear large footsteps, or if you have a keen sense of smell, you can smell the ogre. And so there'll be things in this chat log that don't just relate to whether you're receiving or delivering damage or picking up an item. It'll be other things that have to do with their sensorium, and there will be items in the game that have to do with like you might find uh, 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 the belladonna flower that has atropine. So if you try to eat the flower, then you have problems with that. And so there'll be some nice medical things as well. It's not purely a medical game necessarily in terms of its mechanics. I mean, there's no reason, say, for someone who is preparing for the licensing exams for law not to play alongside you. If you think about it, it's really not prohibitively fun for you to do that. So using the predicted amount of time that you should take to answer questions, you can actually put people into the same field and wind up having them play cooperatively for different examinations. So a step one, step two, and step three people can get exposure to one another. And so a step three person can say, "Oh, you're not even doing a Q bank. You're just reading first aid over and over again." Well, that's why your score's not very good, you know. um, there are things that you just, especially if you come from, there might be people in India that you met who tried to study for the step one in a way that was like really hard to do and might not work. And I've met people because I've been doing tutoring for a while. I know that there's a lot of people who they don't know about certain resources like Pathoma is a really good resource, or Sketchy. Often people don't know that Sketchy exists, and that's fine. You can do it without it, but I think with this collaborative play, you can wind up having a cornucopia of people discussing and collaborating. So this, when you die, if you're multiplayer, then it will usually give you the number of enemies that you've killed, and it will give you option to watch the other players and stay in the game. You might get revived or summoned as a different character, and so there's flashcards that you would wind up doing while you were not alive that would allow you to review some of the questions that you got wrong. And in the single player version that we had before we went online and we started creating the multiplayer single player version, or I should say the online single player version, we had a game review option that would allow you to go back through the questions that you may not have gotten correct and seen, what they are and why you got them wrong. The Yeah, so that's the game in the nutshell. Do you play games at all, or have you played video games in the past? Some people don't.
I did play a lot. Yeah, I did play a lot of games like in the past, but I don't think I have played any for a while now, especially since you recently started. So
Yeah.
this does bring that back into the mix.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It,
I do meet a lot of medical students who played like RuneScape or played like Warcraft potentially,
Mhm.
or played Call of Duty or something, and so like sports games. But this ultimately, is an attempt to kind of even people who don't play video games. There's going to be a summary game, for example, where people compete to go over what are called like they're like uh, for example, an example of this would be, a foosh, so falling on outstretched hand, and then goes
Mhm.
to uh, let's see if we can use the symbol here. Goes to scaphoid fracture, and then
I can't see what you're trying to show me though.
so it's like, okay, so
Oh, that. Okay, now I
yeah,
see. Yeah.
oh yeah, on the browser up here in the top. And
Hmm.
so, foosh injury, so you fall on an outstretched hand, scaphoid fracture, and maybe you're negative for X-ray for at least a week or two because it just doesn't show up. And so
Hmm.
um, I might take the word, scaphoid fracture out and prompt you after a foosh injury, what bone, would be implicated in a fracture that you wouldn't see on X-ray. And so you would it would be like one of those occlusive Anki cards that you might see. And so we're even hoping in the future to generate Anki decks and produce card reviews.
Hmm.
But So you could just play that game all day long, and you'd have like 9,000 vignette style questions that had been packaged down into summaries like that, which would allow you to target the things that people had said were the issue behind their getting those questions wrong. And so it's another thing that even if you're not a gamer, you can kind of get behind. So that's the purpose of meeting you and talking about the game, is to kind of explain it and get impressions. But I also always ask the question, and you don't have to answer any of these questions. But I'm curious, if you're not a gamer, or if you are one, what would draw you in? What things can you think of, if you can think of anything, kind of would draw you in, if innovations or things that you could change about it to make it better?
I think the game that you have made is already a good one. Like honestly, I love the concept and I love the fact that you could add some fun to the studies part of it because tips are inherently really stressful for everyone to go about. But one thing that I do see a problem is like when I was preparing, I had a time constraint. Like I prepared for step 2 in 3 months. So if
Yeah,
someone is going on a timeline like that, then that person would not want to spend time with game
yeah,
interface because that will be a little bit of problematic for them. So it's a good thing to
yeah,
bring people into the preparation, like get
yeah,
them interested in Vineyard style questions and everything.
yeah,
But you do need to make something that would keep them doing this even when they are, in their dedicated part or at least like closer
yeah,
to the dedicated phase
yeah,
because that would be a better thing, like going from one question and then like playing the game for a while for the another question and then again playing a game for a while for another question to come out actually breaks the flow.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like could 10, 20 questions could come like in a bunch. So that would show like, okay, like you do those 20 questions and you get like 100 exaction points. So that would be something that can actually have people hooked to the game.
right, right. Yeah, and I like that idea. I think in the future maybe you can create formatting wherein you're competing on that level, because this will be a competitive kind of
Mhm.
process. One thing that I do currently, the way that I think about the game as it stands is what there's two things that come to mind that we're talking about. And I do like that idea. I think the first thing is I don't think of this as a primary resource. So I think of this as
Mhm.
like if your studying was like a fire, this would be like tinder to
Mhm.
add to the fire to get this fire started.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
if you've studied for 6 hours already, then you might say, I
Mhm.
can't even look at a textbook without getting nauseous. I don't want to I don't want to study. And so
Yeah.
I'll play Borborygmi to get my like curiosity up and get my excitement and interest back, and then I'll go back to the textbook and study for a little bit.
Mm.
So that's where I think we fit in, because there's no way we're going to compete with UWorld's heads up in terms of
Mm.
content and
Mhm.
quality. But I think you could just study these questions and wind up getting near passing and passing and doing well. Um, uh,
Mhm.
I think you're right that ultimately you're going to need to learn what a 40 question block feels like, and you're going to have to skip questions that are
Exactly.
long and hard, and you're going to have to go for the easy points and make sure that you can do a block, because there's tons of strategy that has to do with block doing. So I think gamifying doing blocks would be really interesting, or maybe 20 question
Mhm.
spurts so you get a real feel for that. Um,
Like
but
you add an option of, a multiplayer war or something. Like you get
yeah,
these 20 questions and whosoever can like complete them in the, like really fast to go to the next hurdle. And then from the next hurdle, they can go for another 15 questions. That
uh,
would like give them a flow and as well as can give them a feeling of a game. So
yeah,
that's something to work on.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think that's the best. That's the best like constructive feedback we've gotten is the absence of a way to structure the flow of studying through many questions at one time before you see the answer, or before you get, because you don't get feedback on the real thing. You finish a block and you go, oh, hey,
Hi.
all right, so we'll edit that section out. Don't worry about that. But yeah, so no, I think that's some of the best feedback we've gotten for the long form version of the game. We're also going to have like a player versus player, where they answer questions and they kind of like immediately spend action points trying to attack each other. Uh, and so then we'll have tournament style. So then there'll be people who are like really good at the game and maybe are like upper middle quartile at answering questions, and that'll be really interesting to see who winds up doing well there. Um, so and I just want to thank you for coming to speak to us and being willing to record it and share it. Version, we'll reach out to you and see if you want to maybe play multiplayer, because we're thinking about making a video with medical influencers who could play multiplayer and kind of attempt to stay alive together. So we're not there yet, but you're very welcome. Um, and nice meeting you. Thank you for coming.
Definitely. I think the game idea is really good, and I think it's gonna actually revolutionize a lot of step one and step two prep. Like I especially remember like during my step one prep, especially in the initial time period, like for 1 or 2 months, I used to do this thing that when I got bored of doing UWorld or frustrated or something, or I was just in boards, I would like start UWorld on tutor mode, okay? Like
Yeah,
just going by one question or something. So this could be like a very nice alternative to it, like when you
yeah.
have some time, but you can't like dedicate it to do a blog, so you could just like start playing the game.
I do the same thing.
Or
Watch YouTube
yeah,
channels
or
because you.
in my or even in my dedicated period, like because I had to be like going for the questions or stuff like on and on because it's just like literally 20, 30 days to exam. So I used to do this thing that I would do UWorld all day long, but when I'm like having my lunch or having my dinner, I used to watch Sketchy along with. So,
Yeah,
just to like fill that gap instead of sitcoms, I would do sketchy. So this
yeah.
could be an alternative for that as well, that you can like
Oh,
still
cool.
keep going on with questions because you have your own time.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing is actually nice.
Oh, it's great to hear. Yeah, it's it's always interesting if we can get people who aren't necessarily game adjacent interested in maybe
Mhm.
trying, for their off time for the Tinder time when you're trying to get the the interest going.
Yeah,
So that's good. That's good. And so maybe we'll reach out to you. We'll make maybe a multiplayer video at some point in the
definitely.
future.
I'd look forward to it.
All
Yeah, I
right.
look forward to it.